square foot of the property doesn't comply,
So,
or does it comply?
so I'll give you an example. So in the R2,
How many lots are we talking about?
both have 48. Both plans. This plan and this plan both have 48 homes. So for example, on this plan, we have a minimum lot size required by the R2 zoning district, which is where the property is located, of 10,000 square feet. So we would not be able to have a lot less than 10,000 square feet under the zoning code as it is written today. And so you kind of continue on. The front yard is required to be 25 feet, the side yard is 10 feet, and the rear yard is 25 feet. So in our example, we would comply with the rear yard and the side yard. Our front yard is 5 feet less. So the just minor differences, but those differences allow to have more open space.
And allows it to completely gravity feed.
No, both plans still have the same sewer issue. Both we would still have to solve the sewer.
Can you speak on the reliability? In essence, you said this type of system is very reliable. There are other homeowners in the township that have similar sewer systems that are looking for solutions that don't have large lot sizes. And just could you speak when you say reliable? That could be 2 days or that could be 10 years. So where does that fall?
Yeah. So the equipment is designed to be maintenance free, and then you can get an alarm that's sustained, and that's when you have to call for action. It's about 10 to 12 years the national average for service. I know it well, both myself, Mike Xavier, also the guys that have to go out and do service on the grinder pumps. Like I said, mentioned Lake Army and everything on the weekends. I go out there, so I know the pump very well that way. It's extremely reliable. It does have, like I said, the only parts and labor warranty on there. But about 10 to 12 years, when we go out, we're going to do a tune-up on the pump.
Is that a replacement of the pump, or is that?
No, just there's a wear item. It's not a centrifugal pump. To have a very predictable flow, they use what's called a positive displacement pump. So the stationary part of that is called a stator. It is made out of rubber, so like tires in the car, will change it 10 to 12 years. Isn't uncommon. It doesn't use floats. It uses pressure switches. So as liquid level rises, it has a pressure switch. It traps a pocket of air. It has another switch calibrated a higher level for the alarm. So it's all designed to be maintenance free. Like I said, that GE philosophy from the 60s. Backwards, forwards compatibility. You can take the pump from 1969 or station from 69, and take today's pump, install it in that station. A lot of the grinding mechanisms, pumping mechanisms are the same that way. It's pretty unique, and most of our competitors go about 12 years and then throw away the top fleet as parts are no longer available. So it is very reliable. It may be a solution. Again, it's just a means of conveyance though. So if people have a tight system, they still have to be able to pump it somewhere. It's extremely reliable.
What happens if you lose power?
So what I did is I gave these are the typical questions, so you get that, what happens when you lose power? What happens when they all turn on at the same time? All those kind of questions. So when you lose power, it's not that different than your refrigerator. Maybe you walk up to it, you don't stand there with the doors open, think what you want. You make it a conscious choice. No, you can milk it, open up and use it. Same flushing during your power outage. I found that, and there's capacity in the tank. It's usually good for, about, a day or two. Once you're without power for that third day, the quality of life really decreases. It's not so much your sewer that you're concerned about, there's a lot of other needs in the homes, lack of heat sometimes, and things like that. So at that point, it will on to a bigger problem. It's really the sewage is in it, sitting in the tank. When the power does come back on, it's turns on.
But if you have water there, and you have gravity flow, you always have a flush. You always have a there.
Well, you have the ability to flush. You have the ability to stand up with the refrigerator door open too. Let it all,
I mean, if you have a water main there, you're going to have water all the time, right?
You have the water turn off at the same time.
No, but I just haven't experienced
Now
problems.
you shut the water off.
No, there are some ways we have to identify high levels, so there are even little battery backups to monitor levels. I got a little notification here that, I've reached my capacity after the
Pump gets jammed, it's a reverse.
It doesn't go in reverse. It is a 5-minute quarter-inch cutter wheel. It's a low RPM motor, 1750, so it doesn't rely on sharpness or speed to cut. It's extremely reliable. If there's anything someone's going to say about the environmental grinder pump, it's the pump that does it, Jay. So that's what they made the reputation. They haven't changed the cutter since the 60s. So it's the best of the one.
Chuck?
I though you're interested in what's going on here, I highly recommend that this presenter or presenters be encouraged to come to the Planning Commission to further these discussions. There's some issues that I would personally raise as a member of the Planning Commission that I think extend behind the times that we have available to us now, but I think at the Planning Commission level, they can be addressed, and I would encourage you to forward it to the Planning Commission for consideration.
And you have a meeting coming up.
Yes.
Would that work for you?
Yeah, we're happy to talk to the Planning Commission. I guess, our intent here was really to try and solve the sewer issue first. Once we solve that, then, we'd look to the township, being the supervisors and the Planning Commission, and present that alternative idea and see if that was something that as a whole the township felt was a benefit. It would take some modification to the township code, and so we certainly understand that we want to go through the Planning Commission and the supervisors to make sure that that is in fact what everybody would like to see.
Well, the next planning commission would be September 20th. Am I correct?
Is that, I mean, you guys see at least 3 members of the planning commission here, is that acceptable?
I think that would be. Anybody welcome to come and visit?
September 20th?
Happy with that. Yes.
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
You just come during general discussion, that's fine too.
Sure.
We'll be on the agenda.
Yeah, I guess maybe the question that we have tonight is, when I spoke to Carol a couple weeks ago, she was kind of emphatic that not a great idea. So if maybe there's a little bit of light and give us some encouragement that maybe we should provide some better information and back to see the planning commission in 20th and back to see you guys, I think that's the direction we're hoping to receive tonight.
Let me start with a response to that. In the original plan, you don't have to pull that up, but in the original plan, even with digging sewer deep, as Chuck raised, there were a handful of homes that needed grinder pumps to be able to achieve sewering on that development. And so there was some concern there that if there's just a couple of people with grinder pumps, who are they going to call when their grinder pump goes down? Tim, when you called me and you talked about a few more houses with grinder pumps, I honestly didn't realize that you were talking about a low pressure system throughout, and maybe that's because I took your phone call on the road and I apologize. It certainly is an interesting idea. It would be worth some more discussion. One of the big questions I would have is who maintains that low pressure system until it leaves the development. And you're right, we need to talk to DEP about that. It seems to me that this is a potential way to sewer your development. It also seems to me that if we wanted to continue talking about a pump station, that pump station wouldn't be on this property just serving these 38 homes. That makes no sense for this township. When we did an analysis 5 years ago, we figured it was almost $17,000 a year for a township to run a pump station. So if you're going to run a pump station, that would be something at a low point outside this development. And it sounds like the developer tried to pursue that without success. I don't know if that's something the township will look into further or not. So it's a very interesting proposal. It really is, and it'll be interesting to talk about it going forward.
So I just want to follow up on that. So you mentioned a number, $17,000 a year to maintain a pump station. How much is it going to cost a year to maintain this system?
Well, this system would be getting maintained by each individual property owner.
In theory.
Yeah, so if...
But even so, somebody's paying for it. So what would the estimated annual cost be for this system?
But somebody would have to maintain the main.
Yeah, so there's 2 pieces of it. So one would be the pump that's on each individual homeowner's property, and then there's the low pressure main that goes throughout the community through the roads. And so that's what Tim and Carol were discussing. And the homeowners association maintain that main all the way out to until it gets to 29 or into the gravity system in front of Little's. Or does the township take ownership and maintenance responsibility for that force main? And I think that Tim can answer the question about maintenance. I guess you have force mains in other municipalities?
Yeah, certainly over the years we've had a number of, I've never done one as large as 48 homes, but there are a number of projects where 5, 10, 15 homes connect to a low pressure system. And I don't know that on an annual basis, any maintenance to the force main, I mean, it's just there. And barring any catastrophic failure, really it just exists. The maintenance or the cost is electricity to run each grinder pump, so each homeowner is going to experience some additional electrical cost to run a grinder pump, as opposed to just letting a gravity sewer work, but that's a cost borne by the homeowner, not a cost borne by the municipality, so I think there's something kind of.
So to answer your question, the potential with the grinder pump solution, if the DEP would allow the homeowner association to own and maintain that force main, then there would be no cost to the municipality.
Negligible.
Correct. In that solution versus if it was a pump station, it would be $17,000.
I think it might be a bit strong. A properly designed low-pressure sewer system relies on the pumps working together to scour the pipe. So as far as maintenance and so forth goes, that's $17,000. Maybe if you budget 5%, you'd still have money in the kitty for that. There's really just not a lot to do to maintain that network of HDPE pipe. So,
Yeah, you were saying something about one system versus the other, that other developments or potential subdivisions could connect into it. Which one had the potential for the others to connect in and the other one didn't?
So if you have an individual pump in front of each one of these 48 homes, then it only services that home, wouldn't provide a greater overall municipal benefit.
But Ben, that system is expandable.
Sure.
I mean, certainly, if this was going to be a municipally owned force main, it could be extended to serve other adjacent properties, and that's certainly a possibility too.
Within what kind of circumference?
So what Tim's suggesting is that I'll use this map as just a drawing. So let's say, for example, these homes here were to connect to our system. So if we had a pipe that was going throughout our community and it was a low pressure system and you lived here, and in order to get to our pipe here, you could have a grinder pump in your front yard or rear yard, and then you'd be able to pump your sewer into our.
If somebody gave you access through those
Correct.
properties.
That's correct. Yes, there's a lot of potential. So conversely, a centralized pump station. So what that would be is, let's just use this for argument's sake. So we would put a pump station here that would cost $17,000 a year for the authority to maintain, but then we would have a gravity line that would feed down to that pump station. All these 48 homes would connect to this one pump. This one pump then would connect out into the road, then into the existing line. And in that scenario, there would same kind of potential if you could get to gravity this way, or if there was something else that could get to the existing or to that new pump, it could connect. When we looked at the topography, we think that putting a pump on our property here does not really provide any great municipal benefit. So because of the topography, it would be challenging for other people to get to that via gravity. And so really the ideal location for a pump station would be over by the creek on Salford Station Road. If there was a pump station that was to provide an overall municipal benefit, it would be over at that location.
Just a quick question. Does this work also with the other plan, the whole thing that you've said?
This here?
Yes.
Yes.
It does
Yes.
work with that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Turn.
Where would the sewer lines be on the other plan?
So in this solution, we would do the same kind of thing. Either we would put a pump station down here, or we would run individual grinder pumps with a low pressure main out down to 29. Or then what I would look at is the benefit to the overall municipality would be to put a pump station over here by the creek off Salford Station, and then this portion of the community would all flow gravity to a pump station over here, and then a force main back up Salford Station, connecting back into 29.
So which additional homes are you servicing besides?
So if there was a pump station over off Salford Station, you know, that's at the low point because it's near the creek, and so that would really allow for a lot of the homes along Salford Station to have a gravity line. If you've driven the road, it kind of goes up fairly steep, and so that would allow all these homes to flow via gravity to a pump station, and then come up Salford Station and then to 29. It is, but overall, if the idea is to do a pump station, that really is the location that I think makes the most sense for the municipality as a whole. If I was just looking at my project alone, I would say I just would like to put it here on the corner. But if I'm looking at, hey, if a pump station does need to be owned and maintained by the authority, where's the best location for it? So,
Have you been directed to explore solutions outside of your neighborhood?
so I spent a year talking to some of the neighbors in this area to try and obtain an easement, and I've not been successful obtaining any easements.
But what you're still saying is a pump station is a potentiality, but what we're really talking about for your piece of land is this is what we're.
It's an alternative.
Vision for both of you. You don't have the expense of maintaining the pump station, and you get the advantage of being able to work any configuration following contours with the front pumps. So,
The idea was, I spent a year trying to obtain easements because I thought the best thing for this project in the municipality was to build a pump station in an alternative location. But as I've gone through that process and realized, well, that is not necessarily reality, I said, well, thought to myself, talking to Tim, what are some other solutions? Then we can still provide sanitary sewer to this project, and then perhaps not burden the township with a pump station if the only use was going to be for this project.
I mean, I've just heard from some other communities that they don't really like grinder pumps, but what you're saying is this is like a new technology. It's like a new and improved grinder pump.
I call it the Cadillac.
yeah, it really it goes back to technology that was developed in the 60s, and they had a clean sheet. Since then, there's a lot of V2s where other pump companies, hey, I got a pump here, instead of shit, put a cutter on it, and pump it a bucket, some floats, I got a grinder pump. So, not all things are equal. As far as the quality and reputation, you can give your references both young and old, and I think you'll be very satisfied with what they tell you, what it's like to deal with environmental systems.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful for us in order to make a decision if there are other communities that have this specific system.
There's literally hundreds just right here.
I think that would be helpful to understand their experience with it, someone who had it for a while, maintenance costs, any problems.
So perhaps maybe I could work with Kevin. I know there's a number of other authorities in the local area that have grinder pumps.
But this specific one.
Yes, yeah, this specific one. So perhaps what we can do is we can have the authority manager from those other authorities speak with Kevin or speak with some representative of the township, so they get an idea firsthand from other authorities what their responsibility is and what they've seen in terms of law.
I think that would be helpful to have another data point to see what other people's experiences have been.
That'd be excellent.
Well, I certainly appreciate all the time that everyone's given tonight, and looking forward to the front of the planning commission.
I just had one thing I would like to add. I mean, in all fairness to the township as well as yourself, when you do come to the planning commission, please come with the ability to speak to the whole project that was approved as a preliminary plan several years back, because the conditions that were set are also important for us to be able to converse with you intelligently about how we might proceed forward.
Sure. Happy to. Well, thank you. I appreciate everyone's time.
Okay, just one more question, Dan. You still need to pump off your site to the location on Route 29, correct? So you're talking about each home would have its own individual grinder pump that has to, even if it's using gravity, you still need to move all that material to a place on Route 29, you're saying?
That's correct.
So that would be a pump, that's a pumping station or whatever. So there's another pumping device that would be required to move the effluent off of your development to that location.
No.
It's just going to flow downhill because that's not
Each grinder pump serves that function. So each grinder pump works in tandem together. And each of these pumps then moves that sewage all the way from the project to the point of gravity connection to 29.
So each little tiny pump associated with the house is going to take the place of major sewer mains that use gravity.
Correct.
We introduced many points of failures where there used to be one.
Okay?
Point of mathematics.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah, I do have a little bit of history with these, going back many years ago. You mentioned the 60s, I believe, when you had these low-pressure volume type pumps out there. The issue, I have some questions about, and again, maybe I'm getting too semantic with this. The issue is that when you dig your trench and lay the piping, it has to be properly bedded, right? You do that, you just don't,
Actually, horizontal directional drilling with the high density polyethylene, there's a lot of installs in it.
oh, so you're using directional drilling
It
also?
can be, there are thousands of ways this
I never
technology.
did that with this. I've done directional drilling with other products, but not with this way. And what is your history on check valves? You never had a failure with a check valve?
Well, no, absolutely.
I mean, you have to have check valves in the system, right?
No, this is the check valve here, okay?
Right.
Stainless steel, and this evolved because there's a lot of inexpensive plastic on it. So E1, has it on, they put the steam on it. So there's a check valve this right here is your point of control, that's your valve. So this would be like traditionally the municipality side. And they want to check out right here, so if you ever had a compromise in your lateral, a tree, root, or something like that, you don't have the rest of the system pushing on.
Right.
So there's a check valve right at the homeowners. But the network of pumps working together, there's only one way to put it together. There's no check valve
Right.
in the rest of the system.
Right.
It's only
It's just a check valve against you, the customer.
correct, yeah, just protect the rest of the system.
Okay, and the typical size of the pipe is what? Based on loading?
Well, so an inch and a quarter pipe is typically used for lateral. We literally have, systems of thousands of pumps. So if you go up to, 12 inches, but on this we're talking here, 2, maybe 3 inches.
Okay, again, thank you.
Chuck?
Just one point of clarification, okay? Just so everybody's on the same page, the plan that Ben has there would require zoning change, and there's a process for that that involves public hearings and things like that. So just in case anybody's misinterpreting what you see on that plan that's facing us.
He's absolutely correct.
That's the one in green.
The 1 degree, yeah, absolutely. This would need some modifications
Right.
to the current code.
All right, then, you want to set it up for being planning commission?
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
Everyone?
I have on here the township building use policy. I didn't know if the board wanted to move forward or still wanted to discuss that.
No response, my question is Carol. What is your thought on this? From what I understand, you weren't too crazy about it.